They told me to never mop past the freezer door, never feed the man in gate jacket 9, and never, under any circumstance, answer the payphone after 3:33 a.m. I thought they were messing with the new guy. I was wrong. Dead wrong. The rules weren't warnings. They were survival instructions. If you've ever worked nights, you know the world shifts after midnight. It gets thinner somehow, like the veil between this world and something else begins to tear. People don't walk the same after midnight. The air breathes slower, time holds its breath. But you only notice that kind of thing when you're forced to stay awake while the rest of the world dreams. The Silver Run Diner squats on the edge of nowhere, Nevada. It's about 50 yards from a runway no one remembers paving, right next to an airport terminal that's only ever lit up by vending machines and the glow of ghost flights no one boards. I took the night shift out of desperation. I'd just moved out west, broke, no degree, no plan, only a car that barely ran and a dream that had already cracked at the edges. A now hiring flyer taped to a rusted gas pump was the first sign of life I'd seen in 3 counties. Margot, the day shift manager, hired me without much interest. Her uniform had grease embedded in the seams, and her voice had the graveled tone of someone who smoked through wars. "You'll take over at 11:30. We do full handover, not this ghost clock-in crap the kids like now. Stay sharp, mop your end, close down tables after the pilots finish their fuel stops, and follow the night protocol." She said it like it meant something more than cleaning schedules. I laughed. Night protocol? Sounds like a video game. She didn't smile. She handed me a laminated sheet, bent in the middle, stained with coffee and something dark at the edges. Silver Run Diner Night Protocol. Strict compliance required. 1. Switch the open sign off at 12:01 a.m., no earlier, no later. You are still open. Don't explain this to anyone. 2. If anyone asks about flights after 1 a.m., tell them weather delay, even if skies are clear. 3. Never serve black coffee after 1:34 a.m., no exceptions. 4. Children who enter alone must be asked for the code word. If they fail to say it, do not let them leave. Secure them in the supply room and alert the cook. 5. If the payphone rings after 3:33 a.m., do not answer. 6. Booth 6 is always broken, even if it looks fine. Never let anyone sit there. 7. The man in the long coat is not real. Tell him all booths are full and he will leave. Do not look at his hands. 8. Never mop past the freezer door after 2 a.m. 9. Always leave exactly 3 fries on every plate between 2:22 a.m. and 3 a.m., whether they ask for fries or not. 10. At sunrise, wipe the windows clockwise before unlocking the door. Failure to do so voids all protection. I stared at it like she'd just handed me a horror movie script. Margot didn't blink. "I'll learn the real procedures on the job?" I asked, still half hoping this was a weird hazing ritual. "That is the procedure," she said. "Don't ask questions, don't break the rules. People who break the rules don't finish their shift." The first night started slow. Empty booths, humming lights, the buzz of an ancient jukebox that still thought it was 1974. A trucker named Red came in just before midnight, ordered meatloaf and lemon pie, tipped $5 on a $10 bill. He seemed normal enough. No, ghosts. No rules broken. I actually started to feel dumb for being nervous. Then I noticed the clock behind the register freeze at 12 a. Not 12 on, not 11:59. Just stopped. I tapped the glass. Still frozen. I remembered rule number 1 and ran to the front to flip the open sign off. As soon as I did, something changed. It was subtle at first, the smell of burnt rubber wafting in from the lot. The jukebox stopped mid-song and didn't start again. The kitchen bell rang, but Benny, the cook, was standing behind the grill doing nothing. He just looked at the bell, then looked at me. "You're late flipping it," he muttered. It was only, "Don't explain. They don't like excuses." They? He didn't answer, just wiped his hands on a towel and walked into the back freezer, where he stayed for nearly 20 minutes. The first real problem came at 1:49 a.m. A woman walked in wearing a wide-brimmed red sun hat and sunglasses. At night. I wasn't sure if she was high or sick or just fashionably cursed. She sat in booth 6. I hesitated. Booth 6 had nothing wrong with it. No loose legs, no sharp edges, no ripped vinyl. It looked perfectly normal. She ordered black coffee, voice like dead leaves blowing across asphalt. I froze. Rule number 3. I cleared my throat. Sorry, we're out of black coffee after, 1:34. She didn't move, didn't blink. I can get you a hot chocolate or you will bring me the black coffee. Her voice was now not right. It echoed slightly like she was speaking from somewhere distant. Her sunglasses slipped slightly down her nose. Her eyes weren't eyes at all. I blinked, then she was smiling, and I was walking, no, floating, toward the machine. I poured the coffee, brought it to her. My hands shook as I placed it on the table. She didn't touch it, just inhaled. Steam hissed and vanished. I turned around for just a second, swear it, and when I looked back, she was gone. No footsteps, no car sounds, no bell. But the cup was still there, ice cold, crawling with ants. I swept it away, dumped the whole thing. The ants didn't scatter, they just crumbled, dust, ash. I pulled the laminated rule sheet from my apron, pocket and reread it like my life depended on it, because I was starting to believe it did. Around 3 a.m., the silence started to listen back. You know how silence sometimes feels like a blanket? This was different. It wasn't comforting. It was aware. The lights over booth 6 flickered once, then held steady. I avoided looking directly at it. Then, at 3:33 a.m., the payphone rang. One shrill cry, then 2, then 3. I counted to 5. My hand moved on its own. I lifted the receiver, static, then a whisper. You saw her. You served her. Now she knows. You're sent. Click. I dropped the receiver. It hit the floor and cracked. The dial tone screamed like something drowning in salt water. When I looked up, Benny was standing at the end of the hall, shaking his head slowly. You really screwed up, rookie. She marked you. You'll need protection now. You have iron on you? Salt? I stared at him like he was a madman. He sighed. Figures. Fresh meat never comes prepared. At sunrise, I tried to leave without wiping the windows. I was halfway to the parking lot when Margot was already there, blocking my way. She didn't look angry. She looked tired, like she'd done this dance before. You wiped the windows? No, clockwise? I didn't know. Clockwise. Always clockwise. Come on. Before they get too curious. She dragged me back inside. The windows were starting to frost in June. She took my hand, dipped my fingers in a jar of salt from behind the pie display, and forced me to trace a circle on the glass. When I finished the last one, the light shifted. It was subtle, but real. The diner exhaled. The walls relaxed. Staggered out, half frozen, heart pounding. I made it to my car, locked the doors, and cried like a kid. That was just night 1, and I'd already broken 2 rules. Some passengers never make it to their gate, some never leave it. But the man in gate jacket 9, he's not waiting for a flight. He's waiting for someone to break the rules. And last night, I did. Daylight should have brought peace, but it didn't. It never really does when you're on the night shift. When the sun rises, it's not redemption, it's reprieve. A pause between horrors, a shallow breath before the next descent. I didn't sleep when I got home. I tried, but every time I shut my eyes, I saw her, the woman in the red sun hat, sipping steam from a cup she never touched. By 3 p.m., I gave up. brewed stale coffee in a thrifted machine, and sat on my couch with the rule sheet crumpled in one hand. I read it over and over until the words started to lose shape. But then I noticed something I hadn't the first time. A faint stain along the bottom, a smudge that looked like a name had been wiped away. The edge was burned or torn, too perfectly, erased. Someone had removed something from this sheet. Someone had altered the rules. A chill settled on my shoulders, and I had the overwhelming sense that I wasn't just reading the rules, I was being measured by them. The diner at night is a different building. Same chrome edges, same red leather booths and checkered floors, but its bones shift after midnight. You can feel it. Like the walls lean in just a little, like the air thickens with each minute past 12. By my third shift, I was already jumpy. I kept glancing at the payphone, watching the clock, avoiding booth 6. Margot hadn't returned since my first day. Benny was quiet, said little, watched more. At 12:01 a.m., I flipped the open sign off. The air clicked. Something shifted. I held my breath. Then came the first visitor of the night. He didn't come through the front door. He appeared, like a glitch, in space, a flicker of motion, then presence. He was tall, too tall, wearing a long gray coat, standard airport gate staff jacket, the kind with a name tag stitched into the chest. Gate Jacket 9. I'd never seen anyone wear that before. The airport doesn't have 9 gates, just 5, and 3 are always closed. He sat down without ordering. Booth 4. Not booth 6, thank God. I approached, pad in hand. Something to drink? I offered, voice strained. Room temperature water, he said. No ice, no lemon. His voice was precise, almost surgical, like it had been rehearsed thousands of times in front of a mirror. I nodded, poured water from the back. When I turned to bring it to him, he was already holding a glass. It was the exact one I'd just poured. My hands were empty. How? Did you? You're the new one, he said, not a question. The one who answered the phone. My spine iced. I said nothing. He sipped. The water didn't move in the glass. It shimmered like mercury. You broke Rule 5, he whispered. But that wasn't the first one, was it? Who are you? He leaned in. His face was wrong, almost human. Eyes a little too far apart. Skin too smooth, like it had been stretched to fit a shape it wasn't meant for. They call me Gate Jacket 9, he said. But you can call me the correction. He stood, glass empty. But not tonight, he added, turning toward the door. Tonight's still yours. As he walked away, the bell above the door did not ring. And his reflection never touched the windows. I told Benny everything. He listened, cracked open a cigarette carton, and pulled out a worn matchbox from inside it. No matches, just a sliver of paper with tiny print. Read this. It was an addendum to the rules. Smaller print, hidden, folded 12 times. Supplemental rule. 11. If Gate Jacket 9 appears, do not serve him anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. If he finishes his drink, that means he is measuring your time. Avoid eye contact. If he leaves through the door, you are safe, tonight. If he disappears, count to 7, and then cleanse booth 4 with iron water. Stared at him. You knew he'd come? Benny shook his head. No, but I knew he hadn't come in a while. These things run on cycles. Why didn't you stop me? His eyes were tired. You already served him by the time I noticed. We're not meant to interfere. Once the sequence begins, the diner decides what happens. The diner? Silver Run isn't a building, he whispered. It's a threshold, and the rules aren't about service. They're ritual. Later that night, things escalated. At 2:12 a.m., a child entered. A boy, maybe 9, wearing a pilot's cap, dragging a teddy bear with no face. He climbed into a stool, kicked his legs, and asked for a chocolate milkshake. I froze. Rule number 4. Children Who enter alone must be asked for the code word. If they fail to say it, do not let them leave. Secure them in the supply room and alert the cook. My voice shook. What's the code word, kid? He blinked. Huh? The code word, I said again, louder. He paused, looked confused. Please? Wrong answer. I nodded slowly. Okay, wait here. I walked into the back and found Benny already holding the key to the supply room. He doesn't know it, I said. Benny nodded. Then he's not a child. We escorted him. Calmly, gently. No sudden moves. He smiled the whole time, like he thought we were playing a game. As he passed under the kitchen light, his shadow didn't match his shape. It twitched, shifted. When the door shut and locked, the diner felt warmer. Just slightly. Benny handed me a jar of salt and told me to sprinkle a circle around the doorframe. I asked him what we do with it. We wait till sunrise, he said. Then we check the inside. If it's still a boy, we let him go. And if it's not, we don't open the door. At 3:33 a.m., the payphone rang again. I stared at it. Let it ring. 15 times. It stopped, then rang once more. Just once. That was new. Was that supposed to happen? I asked. Benny was staring at the door. His hands were trembling. No, he said. That's not part of any rule I know. Just before sunrise, the freezer door opened on its own. No one went near it. No one mopped past it. A wind blew out from inside, not cold, dry, like desert air, like something ancient had stirred. I thought of rule number 8. Never mop past the freezer after 2 a.m. I hadn't. But someone or something had. On the inside of the freezer glass, Fog wrote something from the inside. He's watching from gate 9. I didn't ask Benny what it meant. I already knew. Gate jacket 9 wasn't finished with me yet. And tomorrow night, I'd have to serve him again. Booth 6 is always broken until the night it wasn't. And when someone sat there willingly, smiling like they'd been expected for centuries, the diner fell silent. Because even the walls knew. That wasn't a customer. It was a reckoning. Used to think the diner had secrets. Now I know better. It doesn't have secrets. It is a secret. A fracture stitched together with rules and rituals, salt and silence, holding something ancient at bay. By the time my 4th night shift rolled around, I didn't trust the floors beneath my feet. I didn't trust the lights overhead or the windows that didn't show reflections after midnight. I didn't even trust my own memory anymore. Something was changing. The rules weren't just instructions, they were warnings. And they were starting to react to me. The rule sheet, which I kept folded in my apron, had begun to look different. Words I hadn't seen before, sections I'd swear weren't there on night 1, now appeared in smudged ink along the margins. Booth 6 opens when trust is broken. When it opens, someone must close it. That wasn't there before. I didn't know what it meant. But deep down, something inside me did. Something that had started to wake up since the night I answered the phone. Since I served gate jacket 9. Since the boy with no code word smiled with teeth that didn't belong in a child's mouth. It began early. 5:59 p.m. A couple pulled into the lot. A man and woman, both too clean, too perfect. Their smiles matched, their movements synchronized. When they walked into the diner, the air coiled around them like wire. They headed straight for booth 6. I rushed to intercept. "Sorry, that booth's broken." "We know," the woman said. Her smile didn't waver, neither did her eyes. "We'd like it anyway," I stammered, glancing back at Benny, who stood stiff behind the grill, spatula frozen in midair. He shook his head. "Tell them it's closed." "I can't let you sit there," I said. They sat anyway. And the lights above didn't flicker this time. They stayed steady. Too steady. A low hum filled the air, the kind that lives beneath hearing, under the floorboards of your skull. I realized the music from the jukebox had stopped again. Only this time, so had everything else. No buzzing fridge, no grill sizzle, no clock ticking, even time had paused. Booth 6 was no longer broken. It was active. I approached carefully. "Can I get you something?" "Coffee," the woman said. "Black," the man added. "Black coffee." Rule number 3. I glanced at the clock. 27 a.m. 7 minutes left. "No coffee till 1:34, I said. She smiled wider. "It's not 1:34 yet, so bring it." The man placed a coin on the table. Not a quarter. Not any currency I knew. Smooth, silver but too heavy, and cold like it had just been pulled from deep earth. "It's payment," he said. "You accept payment, don't you?" My skin screamed. My soul recoiled. Every instinct in me howled run. But my legs? They moved toward the coffee machine. The mug burned my hands, though the liquid was barely warm. I placed it before them. They didn't drink. The woman leaned forward and whispered, "He's waking." The man smiled. "Booth 6 never stays closed. Forever." I backed away. Benny dropped his spatula and rang the bell once, then again. Sharp. Deliberate. I turned. There were new words on the wall, written in frost backwards from the inside of the window. "One seat remains." A sound began, faint, muffled. From under the floor, a heartbeat, slow, heavy, boom, boom, boom. Then a voice whispered behind my left ear. "Don't let the third sit." I turned. No one was there. The door opened. A third person entered. She was young, pale, hair braided with ribbons that twisted like moving ink. She walked directly to booth 6 and sat beside the couple. The table shuddered. The light dimmed. The diner sighed like a tomb exhaling its final breath. I didn't move. I couldn't. The girl spoke one word, "Now." And all three of them smiled. As one, with the same teeth. Then something rose from the seat between them. A shape. Smoke with bones. Flesh with memory. The seat itself convulsed as if it were giving birth to something old. Something that had once worn a name but had long since burned it away. The booth filled with dark. Not shadow. Absence. A hole. A hunger. It reached for me. That's when Benny broke the rules. He grabbed a steel canister from under the counter, pulled a lighter from his belt, and lit the canister on fire. Blue flame roared. He hurled it across the diner. It hit booth 6 square, in the center. Screams erupted. Not from the mouths of the three, but from everywhere. The walls, the windows, the floor. The diner screamed. Booth 6 exploded in a rush of ash and light. The couple disintegrated. The girl melted into the floor. And the booth? It closed. Wooden planks replaced the seats. The number 6 peeled off the table and fell, burning to the floor. I stood in silence, panting, shaking, covered in soot and salt. Benny wiped blood from his nose and stared at me. "You broke the coffee." "Rule again." "I didn't mean..." "You brought them what they needed to summon it." "What was it?" He didn't answer. He walked to the melted remains of the booth and placed something on the table. A fork. Silver. Bent. Engraved with the word "shut." Later that morning, I found another new rule on the back of the sheet. Rule 0. If booth 6 ever accepts 3, you must close it before the 4th arrives, or the 4th will be the final. I didn't know what the 4th was, but I knew this. Booth 6 is closed again, and it's not staying closed for long. You only notice the red lights when it's too late, and by then, the diner has already chosen its sacrifice. This is the story of my last night at the Silver Run Diner, and maybe the last night the diner ever allowed to happen at all. They say some buildings are haunted, that spirits cling to walls, that tragedies trap souls. But the Silver Run wasn't haunted. It was alive, and it was hungry. After the incident with booth 6, Benny and I knew something had changed. The diner was reacting to us, learning us, studying us. The rules no longer felt like boundaries. They felt like baits, like ways to test where we'd bend, where we'd crack. On the fifth night, what should have been my final shift of the week, everything began wrong. The clock above the register showed 11:11 p.m. when I walked in. But every other clock in the building was stuck on 3:33. The jukebox was already playing, but the song wasn't in English. It was whispers, layered over piano, the melody familiar but warped, like a lullaby you forgot in a dream. Benny was missing. In his place on the grill stood a note, smeared with grease. "Don't serve him, not tonight. If the lights go red, run." My hands shook as I read it. The note smelled like rust and ash, and something else, copper, blood. Midnight came and passed. No sign of Benny. No customers. Then at 12:23, the front door opened. Gate Jacket 9 returned. This time, he didn't sit. He stood in the center of the diner, eyes scanning slowly, like he was remembering something that hadn't happened yet. He spoke. "You let it open." I swallowed. "We closed it." Booth 6 doesn't close. It waits. He took a step toward me. "Do you know what this place is? What it feeds? Tell me." He smiled. No warmth, no teeth, just a stretching of skin. It was built on a terminal, not for planes, for the departed. This diner is a gate, one of 9, and now it wants a toll. The lights flickered. Then they turned red. Every single one. Emergency hue bathed the diner in crimson, and somewhere behind the walls, something woke up. A thrum began beneath my feet. The windows turned opaque, like skin pulled taut. Every booth filled with silhouettes, shifting shadows, passengers that had never boarded, screaming without mouths. The payphone rang once, then went, silent. Gate Jacket 9 leaned in. "Only one of us leaves tonight, you or it." "What is it?" He pointed to the kitchen. To booth 6, it was whole again, and someone was already sitting there. Me. I stared at myself. My doppelganger raised a coffee mug, black. Steam curled upward. Gate Jacket 9 nodded. This is the diner's way. It creates a second. One must be served. One must serve. If you take his place, you remain. If not, the diner takes you both. I backed away. The red lights pulsed. Rule 13 suddenly burned itself onto the wall, carved by invisible claws. If the red lights stay longer than 7 minutes, choose. My double stood, smiled, spoke. "I'll take it from here." I ran. I ran through the kitchen, past the freezer, which howled now like a dying wind. Through the back hall that shouldn't exist, I found stairs. Going down, and I took them, for 7 levels, each. One stranger than the last, a level of clocks all ticking backward, a level of mirrors, none of which showed me, a level where it rained indoors, blood and salt mixing in shallow pools, until I reached the bottom. There was a single booth, and Benny sat there, eyes black, face slack. He looked at me and whispered, "Took you long enough." I don't remember the rest clearly, only that we both screamed, that something peeled out of my chest and offered itself up like currency, that the diner shook, that the red lights turned white, and that when I woke, I was back at the counter. Daylight. Outside, booth 6 empty. The rule sheet was gone, and so was Benny. Now I'm writing this from a motel, 30 miles outside the airport. I haven't been back. But every night at 3:33, the phone in the room rings once, and I know. One day the diner will call me back. And when it does, I'll have to serve, or become what gets served next. They always say follow the rules, but no one ever asks who wrote them, or what happens when the rules stop being commands and start being traps. I walked into that diner looking for a paycheck. I left with the truth. Some places aren't cursed. Some places aren't haunted. Some places are waiting. And once you Feed them your time, your choices, your soul. You don't leave the diner. Not really. You just stop showing up on the schedule. But one seat is always warm. One booth is always ready. And one light, deep in the desert of Nevada, never goes out. Even if no one's there to flip the switch if you think the story ends here, think again. Some horrors don't fade when the screen goes dark. They just begin.